Black Ram 313 here with an exclusive video for the Patreon page. Thank you for being a member. This will be sort of an audiobook, a small one. We can call it a mini audiobook. So I have to lay out the format. So I'm going to cite two sources, two articles that are unrelated to each other to get the backstory of the myth, the legend called Lilith. Lilith, a being very mysterious, soaked and steeped in mystique. So we're going to get the background upon Lilith, and then we're going to listen to several clips of others talking about Lilith. And then we're going to get clips about the modern day Lilith, who is the B-dub and all of those who follow it. What do I mean follow the B-dub? Well, the Western world has taken its cues from the Babylonian beast, and therein lies the spirit of Lilith. Now, I cannot prove or disprove that there was ever a Lilith. Possibly myths and legends. I don't know. You do your research and you draw your own conclusion. I am just sharing with you my research. So again, the format will be, I'll be reading two separate articles to give the background and history of thought on Lilith. We're going to watch a couple of clips on Lilith and see what others have to say about this being. And then we're going to get clips on the modern day Lilith. And then after that, I will return and give my commentary about my thoughts on this creature called Lilith. So let's go and let's get started. I will be reading from an article in the Jewish Virtual Library. And I quote, and it reads, Lilith, a female demon assigned a central position in Jewish demonology. She appears briefly in Sumerian Gilgamesh epic and is found in Babylonian demonology, which identifies similar male and female spirits. These harmful spirits have various roles. One of them, Lilith, preys on males and also imperils women in childbirth and their children. Lilith, a winged female demon who strangles little ones, in other words, children, is known from a Hebrew Canaanite inscription found in northern Syria dating about the 7th or 8th century BCE. Lilith, the name means to her that flies in rooms of darkness to pass quickly. In scripture, there's only one reference to Lilith, Isaiah 34 and 14. Among the beasts of prey, the spirits that will lay waste the land on the day of vengeance. Now I'm going to pause here when it comes to this article, because the article does not quote Isaiah 34:14 in the whole context. So for the listener, I am going to read aloud Isaiah chapter 34, starting in verse 13 through verse 15 for context. Now, I am not saying personally that this scripture is implication of Lilith. I'm just following the train of thought in the article. These are not my personal opinions or observations. Isaiah 34:13, quote, and the thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof. And it shall be a habitation of dragons and a court of owls. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr. Pause. The satyr is, of course, the creature that is half horse and half human. Back to Isaiah. And the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screeched owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place of rest. There shall be a great owl making her nest and lay and hatch and gather under her shadow. There shall be vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate. That is from the book of Isaiah. Now back to the article from the Jewish Virtual Library, picking up where I left off. It says, in sources dating from earliest centuries, traditions concerning the female demon who endangers women in childbirth, who also assumes many guises and names, are distinct from the explicit tradition on Lilith recorded in the Talmud. Whereas the Babylonian Lilith is mentioned as some kind of male demon with no defined function, Lilith appears as a female demon with a woman's face, long hair, and wings in many traditions. A man sleeping in a house alone may be seized by Lilith. And the demon also moves around the world at night, visiting women in childbirth and endeavoring to strangle the newborn babes, as mentioned in the Testament of Solomon, a Greek work from about the 3rd century. In Christian traditions, Lilith is identified as a demon in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and one of the mystical angels, Raphael, is said to have amulets that prevents her from inflicting injury. Lilith is also inscribed on incantation bowls of Sasina, Babylonia. Although such bowls were not an exclusive Jewish phenomenon, some invoke rabbinic divorce formulas to exorcise demons. Midrashic literature expands the legend that Adam, having parted from his wife after it had been ordained that they should die, begat demons from spirits that had attached themselves to him. It is said that he was encountered by a Lilith named Pizani, who, taken by his beauty, lay with him and bore male and female demons. The firstborn son of this demonic union was Agrimus. The offspring of Lilith filled the world. A transmuted version of this legend appears in the alphabet Ben Sira, a midrash of Genoic period, which sets out to explain the already widespread custom of writing amulets against Lilith. Here she is identified with the first Eve, who was created from the earth at the same time as Adam, and who, unwilling to forgo her equality, disputed with him in a manner of intercourse. In later periods, the female demon is known by different names, many of which reappear in the same or slightly altered forms in the literature of practical Kabbalah, as for example the name of Obizoth from the Testament of Solomon, and the place of the angels is taken by 3 saints. The legend is also found in Arabic demonology, where Lilith is known as Horina, or the mother of infants. Personification of Lilith as a stranger, strike that. The personification of Lilith as a strangler of babies is already clear in Jewish incantations written in Babylonian Aramaic, which predate Ben Sira, a later midrash. From these ancient traditions, the image of Lilith was fixed in Kabbalistic demonology. She had 2 primary strike that. She has 2 primary roles: the strangler of children, sometimes replaced in the Zohar, and the seducer of men, from whose nocturnal emission she bears an infinite number of demonic sons. In this later role, she appears at the head of the vast hosts who share in her activities. Belief in her erotic powers led some Jewish communities to adopt the custom of sons not accompanying their dead father's body to the cemetery because they would be shamed by the hovering presence of their demon step-siblings, born of their father's seduction by Lilith. In the Zohar, as in other sources, she is known by such appellations as Lilith, the harlot, the wicked, the false, or the black. Known as the queen of the realm of the forces of evil in the world, she fulfills a function parallel to that of Shekinah, which means divine presence. In the world of sanctity, just as Shekinah is the mother of the house of Israel, so Lilith is the mother of the house of unholy people who constituted the mix of multitudes and ruled over all that is impure. Moving forward in the article, quote, it was very common in ancient times to protect women who were giving birth from the power of Lilith by affixing amulets over the bed or on all four walls of the room. The earliest forms of these in Aramaic included amulets that contain not only the names of the three angels who prevail over Lilith, but also their form, wings, hands, and legs. This gained wide acceptance, and amulets of this type were even printed by the 18th century. Amulets written for women who used to lose their children customarily included the names of these angels. In the Orient, also amulets representing Lilith herself bound in chains were current. Many amulets include the story of the prophet Elijah meeting Lilith on her way to the house of a woman in childbirth to give her the sleep of death, to take her son and drink his blood, to suck the marrow of his bones and to eat his flesh. In other versions, to leave his flesh, Elijah excommunicated her, whereupon she undertook not harm to women in her childbirth whenever she saw or heard her names. This version is doubtless taken from the Christian Byzantine formula against the female demon, Gilo, who was exorcised by the three saints mentioned above. And by saints, the article means or is referring to Raphael and two others in which it failed to mention. And that is all that I will read from this article in the Jewish Virtual Library. Now I'm going to move along to a second article to get more background on Lilith. This article is from a website called angelfire.com. Title is Lilith, Demon Goddess of Eden. And I quote, the book of Genesis in the Old Testament of the Bible describes how the world was created. It also tells the story of Adam and Eve, the first man and the first woman on earth, and their life in the Garden of Eden. What the book of Genesis decidedly omits is the form of a knowing silence. It is a fact that Eve was actually the second woman on earth, not the first. Adam had been married to a woman who was not Eve. Her name just happened to be Lilith. Lilith was a complete opposite of Eve. Adam had been created from the earth, and so had Lilith, while Eve had been created from Adam's rib. Indeed, Lilith had been created from the earth just like Adam. However, while Adam had been created from pure dust, Lilith had been brought forth from the sediment and filth of the earth. The reason for this has also been hidden in silence and remains to this day shrouded in mystery. The marriage between Adam and Lilith was plagued by a multitude of problems, most of them stemming from Adam's patriarchal views toward life in general and sex in particular. The main problem that the couple faced, which eventually led to the destruction of their union, might be seen to this day and age as amusing. To Adam, however, it meant everything. What made matters even worse was the fact that Lilith refused to recognize the patriarchal power that Jewish scripture had granted Adam, solely because he happened to be a man. Adam was well aware of that patriarchal power, and he intended to use it over Lilith even then, at the very beginning of time. That An irreconcilable difference came to the forefront during sex when Adam required Lilith to lay beneath him, subservient and having / being in the missionary position, while he proceeded to have sexual intercourse with and on her. Having sex in a missionary position was the perfect way for Adam to assert both his masculinity and his authority over Lilith. This was an affront to her very nature. Since she had been created in the same manner as Adam, she expected that which was rightfully hers. Not only did Lilith expect Adam to treat her as an equal, she demanded it. And she refused to be subservient to him simply because he happened to be a man. Lilith eventually became so furious with Adam for constantly trying to dominate her that she refused to have sex with him if he continued to insist that he always had to be on top. Adam became furious as well and continued to insist that the missionary position be the only position that he used during sex, because he believed that it was his God-given right to be on top, and because it made him feel superior to Lilith in every possible way. By refusing to give into Adam's demand, Lilith became more than just the first woman on earth. She also became a unique and empowered woman, independent and free in every way, and the kind of woman who would never acquiesce to Adam's constant attempts for domination, whether they happen to be sexual or not. Now, I'm going to pause and mention something that I've read in other articles, but this was a better article, but it makes sense to mention this here. Now, Adam, now these are my words. I'm not reading from an article. I'm gleaning from articles that I've read about this story during my research. Now, Adam wanted the missionary position. He wanted to be on top, to dominate. These were his patriarchal views. Some articles state that there was an argument between Lilith and Adam because Lilith actually wanted to be on top. She wanted to be in the cowgirl position. In other words, she wanted to be the one riding him. She wanted to be the one on top, dominating Adam in that sexual position of her being on the top and Adam being on the bottom. Now let's get back to the article by Angel Fire. Eventually the time arrived when Lilith could no longer live with Adam's unconscionable behavior. So she rebelled and committed blasphemy by uttering the unspeakable magic name of God, Yahweh, out loud. Then Lilith escaped from the Garden of Eden using a pair of wings that quite suddenly appeared upon her back, and she quickly flew away. Even though Adam had been totally miserable in his marriage to Lilith, and even though he was furious with her behavior, he desperately wanted her to return home. Lilith was the only woman on earth, and Adam had learned about the pleasure of the flesh from her. With Lilith gone, Adam began to realize just how much he actually wanted and needed to know those pleasures again. Pause. I want to make a statement. She will always leave you, right? Lilith grew wings and flew away because they don't want to be in subjection, right? They don't want to be under the guidance and the rulership of a man. Those are my words. Now back to the article. In reality, Adam may very well have enjoyed those pleasures, albeit unknowingly, when Lilith supposedly went to visit him, but only while he was asleep. It was during those nocturnal visits that Lilith joined the sleeping Adam and had sex with him. This time, however, it was she who was on top, mounting him as he had mounted her and dominating him as he had dominated her, solely for her own sexual pleasure. Finally, Adam went to God and begged him for his help in getting Lilith to return home to him. God listened to Adam's plea, and in response, he sent down 3 angels, Senoi, and Simalagoth. The mission of these angels was to find Lilith and then force her, if it became necessary, to return back home to Adam. The three angels continuously searched for Lilith until they finally located her living in the caves of the desert, which ran along the shore of the Red Sea. It was there in those caves that Lilith spent her time having sex with lascivious demons, and she gave birth day after day to hundreds of demonic babies that were known as Lilim. The angels tried to reason with Lilith, but Lilith refused to listen to reason, so the angels began to threaten her. Finally, the angels warned Lilith that unless she returned home to Adam, they would kill 100 of her sons each and every day. That threat had little or no effect upon Lilith, who insisted that she would never return to Adam. She then continued by telling the angels that her primary purpose in life was to harm young children, especially infants. Shortly thereafter, however, something quite unusual happened. For some strange and unknown reason, Lilith amended her previous threat and advised the angels that not one single infant would be harmed by her if the child was wearing an amulet which had the angels' images or names placed upon it. Ancient Sumerian Babylonian legends dating as far back as 3500 BCE describe Lilith as a winged female demon who existed primarily to kill infants and endanger the lives of women who were going through childbirth. These legends explain that Lilith, the demon goddess, was also associated with several other harmful spirits known as the Mazakim. Archaeologists became aware of the Mazakim when they discovered a group of Assyrian, Hebrew, Canaanite inscriptions which contained incantations within them that were used as a way of protecting children from the Mazakim. As a female demon goddess, Lilith appeared to be closely related to Lamashtu, an evil female demon who was believed to kill children and eat the flesh and drink the blood of men. Lamashtu was also believed to make pregnant women miscarry and to cause them to have nightmares. Those particular characteristics were almost identical to the ones being to another female demon, the Libyan serpent goddess Lamia, who was believed to murder children. Lamia was also able to shapeshift and appear in the guise of a beautiful young woman so that she could easily seduce young men. Pause. This female demon was able to disguise itself into being, or shapeshift itself into being, a beautiful young woman to attract young men. Think about that for a minute. What is the purpose of makeup? These are my thoughts. It's not in the article. What is makeup for? Is for older women to look younger, and for younger women to look more mature. It's shape-shifting. And I guess we can call that what? Demonic? You be the judge. Back to the article. During the Middle Ages, the Latin Vulgate Bible stated that the Libyan name Lamia was the exact translation of the Hebrew name Lilith, which also means screeched owl and night monster. So bringing this article to a close, it reads, and I quote, "Whether demons actually did exist or whether they did not really doesn't matter. What does matter, however, is the fact that certain powerful people frequently use these demonic women as a way of explaining those forces that otherwise could not be explained. Lilith and the Mazakim were all blamed for causing the deaths of newborn babies. Those powerful people were intelligent enough to realize that by blaming the natural deaths of those infants upon demons, it would appear as though they had miraculously discovered a way to explain the unexplainable. Blaming demons rather than admitting that they didn't know what was wrong seemed like the perfect way out of those powerful people, since by doing so they also gave the infant's parents an actual villain to blame. Not only did these powerful people blame the deaths of those infants upon Lilith and the Mazakim, they also offered parents a way to guard against the very threat by placing amulets with the names of the likeness of the angels upon their children. Parents were able to feel the power that came from their taking proactive role in protecting their children from the demons such as Lilith. Since Lilith was believed to be a demon, an assortment of demonic attributes including licentiousness and lust automatically became associated with her. Throughout the Middle Ages, blaming Lilith or other demons for a wide variety of offenses became very common, and Lilith's offspring, the Lillian, quickly became identified with succubi, which is the female version of the incubi. During the Middle Ages, it was widely believed that the succubi populated with men while they slept, and it was that which caused men to have nocturnal emissions or wet dreams. Celibate monks, terrified by the possibility of having wet dreams, used whatever means they could to come up with a way to protect themselves, which included holding a crucifix in each of their hands while crossing them over their genitals whenever they went to sleep. Once again, when it came to explaining wet dreams, the powerful people society used Lilith and other female demons as a way to explain what frequently happened quite naturally to most young men. Modern medicine now explains that wet dreams are a very common occurrence and one that normally occurs in many, if not most, young men at some point during their teens or early 20s. The Kabbalah, the ancient Hebrew book of mystery, described Lilith as a strangler of children and a seducer of men. Those attributes immediately gave Lilith her own chapter in Jewish demonology. In fact, the Kabbalah actually chose to go one step further by claiming that Lilith was actually the partner of Samael, the devil. Once Lilith became known as the devil's feminine counterpart, she automatically took on the role of a negative counterpart of the Shekinah or divine presence, who was believed by many to be the mother of the house of Israel. In modern times, many Jewish liberals and feminists alike look upon the Shekinah as being a feminine side or a feminine part of God. When Lilith had sex with demons or with the devil, she gave birth to well in excess of 100 babies that angels had threatened to kill each and every one that remained apart from Adam. Lilith, however, did not waver in her decision and continued to give birth in well in excess of 100 Lilim every single day. Once Judaism realized exactly how many Lilim there actually were, it took upon itself to use that particular number as evidence, which proved to everyone that Lilith was populating the entire world with evil. That conclusion, however, causes some interesting questions to be raised, including exactly where all the evil came from and why it was Lilith rather than the other Mazakim, who designated to be the creatrix of all of the sins of the world. Outrageously enough, all the sin and evil in the world appears to stem from Lilith's refusal to be subordinate to Adam. I'm going to read that again. Outrageously enough, according to this article, all the sin and evil in the world appears to stem from Lilith's refusal to be subordinate to Adam, and from her refusal to have sex with him in the missionary position. Lilith was the first woman on earth, and in an extremely short period of time, she had already encountered the extremes of sexism, according to this article. Of course, this article is written from a liberal viewpoint. Back to the article. It was for that reason and out of necessity that Lilith rose to the occasion and did what she did by becoming the world's first feminist. In reality, Lilith was blamed for all the evil in the world solely because she wanted independence. The patriarchal forces that ruled Adam in their quest of domination of the female species demanded that men always remain on top, and they looked upon Lilith's emancipation as evil personified. Those same patriarchal forces also claimed that Lilith was willfully disobedient. Throughout history, whenever women have demanded their independence and the right to use their own free will, they have also been called willful and disobedience. It was for that reason that those demonic women were perceived by the patriarchal society as a constant threat to divine power of masculinity, as it had been defined and determined in no uncertain terms by men. Those same patriarchal forces looked upon Lilith as a sexually powerful woman who used sex as a way of controlling her masculine prey. Men, not wanting to appear weak, asserted the claim that Lilith was a disruptive and destructive force. Then again, one tends to wonder exactly how much truth existed in a belief that exclusively have been created once again in no uncertain terms by men. It is very interesting to note, especially since there has been recent interest in Lilith, that the Old Testament of the Bible only mentioned Lilith once, and the only translation in 1890 by J.N. Darby, which refers to her as being anything but a seductress or demon. Instead, she appears to be quite the opposite. In the Darby translation, the original Hebrew word Lilith is mentioned to the point in times when God's wrath turned the earth into a wasteland. And it was Isaiah that stated, "There shall be beasts of the desert met with jackals, and the wild goat shall cry to his fellow. The Lilith also shall settle there and find for herself a place of rest." Isaiah 34:14. It became quite evident when the name Lilith is seen in that context that the Old Testament was referring to a very different meaning of the word Lilith, which was seen in the Darby translation meant night specter, although it could be as easily have meant screech owl, night creature, or night hag. Whenever men's mind turn to Lilith in her demon goddess aspect, they automatically become terrified that she will use her strong sexual powers to control them. It is from Lilith, as well as the deep dark fears that men frequently feel whenever they have to deal with women or with female sexuality. Patriarchal societies have continuously attempted to suppress it. Then, when they finally realize that they are unable to suppress it, they attempt to find a way which they could at least control it, that they could keep Lilith and the freedom that she represents out of harm's way. Unfortunately for them, that kind of thinking would not work. The problem lies in the fact that Lilith is there and always has been there, lingering around the bend, a shadow seen out of the corner of your eye, an unknown but powerful force as strong as the nameless persona that patriarchal fanatics always seem to attack whenever they feel the need to prove that women represent the true source of evil in the world. If men would only look at Lilith once and for all in an open, honest way, then they might actually see her for what she truly is. Lilith is actually an aspect of the great creatrix goddess, which men only began to call a demon goddess after she had asserted and then won her female independence. As such, and by seeing her in this light, not only does Lilith create life, like the Hindu dark goddess Kali, who is also a goddess of creation and life, she destroys life as well, bringing with her all the necessary death, disaster, and pain. It all makes perfect sense when you think about it. Since death cannot exist without life, then life too is meaningless without death. It is through Lilith as well that women are able to come to terms with the darker side of their innermost selves, with their own unfulfilled desires and many dark and painful experiences that they have always had to face each and every time they've tried to gain equality with men. There can be no good and bad, black or white, right or wrong, since human life has many unique varying qualities to it. And it is Lilith, donning the mask of the dark enigma, who teaches women how to take those special qualities and then use them exclusively to their own advantage. Close quotes, reading from the website Angel Fire, title of the article, Lilith, Demon Goddess of Eden. Now, let's turn our attention to some video clips of others talking and explaining Lilith. And then at the end of those clips, I will give an example of a modern day Lilith. And then we'll get into my commentary. See you on the other side.
We have all heard of Adam and Eve. According to the Bible, they were the first couple of human beings created by God. But there is an ancient Jewish myth disputing the version that Eve was the first woman. This legend states that before Eve, there was another woman named Lilith. Unlike Eve, who sprang from Adam's rib, Lilith was created from clay, together with Adam. Because she was created by God in the same way as Adam, Lilith was not subject to her husband's wishes. She considered herself to be in a position of equality and did not accept being dominated by Adam. Lilith and Adam inhabited the Garden of Eden, but Lilith's rebelliousness made her choose between submitting to her husband or leaving the Garden of Eden. Lilith did not want to give up her independence and left Adam and the Garden of Eden. The first woman left for exile and settled in an area near the Red Sea. God sent 2 angels to try to convince Lilith to return to the Garden of Eden, but she turned her back on God. Without his wife, Adam felt lonely. God, seeing that he was suffering from solitude, decided to create a new woman for him, Eve. Because she turned away from her creator, Lilith was demonized. She came to be considered a woman-shaped demon. In her demonic form, she could cause disease in newborn children. To protect the children from evil, the babies were given amulets with the names of the angels who tried to bring Lilith back to Eden. These stories claim that Lilith was jealous of Adam and Eve's happy life in paradise. As revenge, she took the form of a serpent and tricked Eve, causing her and Adam to taste the forbidden fruit. Thus the couple was eventually expelled from paradise. Lilith's story is well known, but this version is not in the Christian Bible. Therefore, her story is rejected by Catholics and Protestants. The version where she is Adam's first wife is in the alphabet of Syriac texts. We do not know for sure the date when they were written, but it is believed that they were made between 700 and 1000 AD in medieval times. Lilith's myth is in Hebrew, Babylonian, Sumerian, and Assyrian mythologies. In Mesopotamia, Lilith's figure was an evil deity, or when associated with the moon, she was seen as a goddess with several faces, which varied depending on her mood. She could be seen as a fertility goddess, but also a demonic figure. Some theories say that Lilith's absence from the Bible was contrived during the councils that defined the canonical books of the current Bible. Lilith, as an independent and strong woman, antagonized the patriarchal structure of the Judeo-Christian cultures. Thus, the figure of Lilith was embraced by the feminist movement. She is sometimes referred to as the first feminist. The movement claims that Lilith has been unfairly demonized, as have many of the women in our history who have tried to oppose patriarchal rule. Either as a demonic figure or a symbol of female struggle, Lilith's story continues to be the subject of much interest.
Lilith, the first wife of Adam, is a figure in various mythologies and folklore. She was identified by the Babylonians as Lilitu, the storm demon, causing disease and death. In Jewish lore, she is a nocturnal demon and the mother of all demons. Lilith was also associated with vampires as the creator of the Turok Han species. She possesses a seductive, manipulative nature and is described as beautiful and well-endowed. After being driven out of the Garden of Eden, Lilith's appearance changed significantly. She became the Empress of Hell, clothed in gothic and demonic noble attire. Her appearance included fiery quills and scales, a reptilian tail, claws, and fang-like teeth. Lilith completes her overall demonic appearance with her smoldering crimson eyes that lack pupils, red sclera, yellow irises, and black pupils. Her skin has turned.
Brace yourselves, for Lilith is no ordinary figure. She's the hidden legend whispered about in tales of old and in the shadows of night. In ancient myths before superheroes and social media, there was a world brimming with powerful beings, magic, and mysteries. In this realm, stories of gods, goddesses, and monsters were as common as selfies today. Among these tales, while many feared dragons and respected gods, Lilith stood apart, neither god nor monster, but a force to be reckoned with. Lilith is often described as the first woman before even Eve in some stories. She was fiercely independent and desired equality, not following anyone's shadow. Legend has it that when she didn't get her way, she left the paradise of Eden, transforming into a spirit of the night. Some say she would soar in the midnight skies, while others whispered of her mysterious influence over dreams. The owl, often seen as a symbol of wisdom and mystery, is linked with Lilith. Dark moons and starless nights are also believed to be her playgrounds, symbols of her powerful aura. So Lilith, the first rebel, the legend of the night, proves that sometimes breaking away and being different can lead to legendary status. Not all heroes wear kappas, some just embrace the night. Think Batman's cool with his bat signal. Imagine if he had to share the night with Lilith. Now that would be an epic face-off, right? If you know who can beat Lilith, let us know in the comments.
Lilith, featured in Diablo 4, possesses heterochromia, a condition where her irises exhibit different colors. This intentional detail carries significance. In Christian culture, Satan was traditionally portrayed with mismatched eye colors. Moreover, during the Middle Ages and the era of witch hunts, women with heterochromia were frequently associated with witchcraft and faced persecution as witches.
My children, the lords of hell are coming to devour our world. Salvation lies not in the light, but in you. The faith has taught you to deny your heart's desire and turned you into a prisoner within yourself. Break the chains and discover who you were meant to be. Break the chains and be beautiful in sin.
Have you ever had a dream that you were being seduced? Or maybe even touched in a perverse way? Maybe in your dream it was someone you knew, or maybe they were a person that you would desire. If you find yourself having sexual dreams, it may be an incubus or succubus spirit. The Bible mentions spirits that attack you in the night. In the book of Isaiah 34 verse 14, part of the verse speaks of a screech owl that will find rest. In Hebrew, screech owl is derived from the word Lilith, which is also referred to as a night monster. And in Strong's Concordance, screech owl is also defined as Lilith, meaning night demon. The book of Job 4:13-15 says, "In thoughts from the visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on men, fear came upon me, and trembling, which made all my bones to shake. Then a spirit passed before my face, the hair of my flesh stood up." This shows that these spirits can and will attack you at night and even in dreams when you're most vulnerable. When a spirit attacks a female in their dream, this would be known as an incubus, while the female version would be a succubus. There are many accounts of these specific types of spirits throughout history, and there is even a belief that these spirits are breeding with humans and are a direct cause for the offspring of skinwalkers. Regardless of this, these spirits are on the attack. There are many reasons for the purpose of these attacks. Their goal is to drain a person spiritually. Imagine a person as a spiritual cup, filled to the top. The Bible says, "The thief comes to kill, to steal, and also to destroy." Each time a demon attacks a person sexually, it will take a drink of that person's spiritual cup, leaving them with less than they had before. In the book of Luke 8 verse 46, when the woman touched the hem of Jesus' garment, he felt virtue leave him and knew that someone in the crowd had done so. In the Strong's Concordance, virtue comes from the Greek word dunamis, which can mean energy, and excellence of the soul. Each time these spirits attack a person, they are trying to steal their virtue. They are spiritually draining that person's soul, while at the same time, operating to defile them. The after effects of these dreams can result in curses over that person. These curses may cause sickness, depression, anxiety, and even irritability. They are essentially using pleasure as a way of inflicting spiritual pain. Each time this happens, unless that person prays against it, they will be in a worse spiritual state than they were before. These spirits can attack at any time during the night. If you find yourself having these types of dreams, pray against them. Remember that Psalms 91 verse 5 says, "You shall not be afraid for the terror by night." Always
Goddess Lilith is a highly mystical and enigmatic figure in various spiritual and occult traditions. Her origins and history can be traced back to ancient Mesopotamian mythology, but she has also been incorporated into Jewish folklore and later adopted by other belief systems. According to Mesopotamian myths, Lilith was originally a Sumerian fertility goddess associated with birthing and maternal aspects. However, in later texts such as the Babylonian Talmud, she transformed into a figure of darkness and malevolence. Lilith was depicted as the first wife of Adam, whom she resisted due to her desire for independence and unwillingness to submit to his dominance. As a result, she was cast out of Eden and became a feared demoness. In Jewish folklore, Lilith is often portrayed as a seductive, dangerous, and revengeful spirit associated with lust, vampirism, and infanticide. She was believed to prey on men, particularly those who slept alone or masturbated. Her story was used to explain nocturnal emissions and sudden infant deaths, often referred to as Lilith's sudden infant death syndrome. However, in recent times, Lilith has been reclaimed by various spiritual communities as a symbol of feminine power, independence, and rebellion against patriarchal structures. Some modern interpretations depict her as a goddess of empowerment, asserting the rights and autonomy of women. It is important to note that Lilith is a complex and multifaceted figure, encompassing both light and dark aspects.
Good evening. So the title of this video is, why does everyone think that I'm a witch? I don't know, why so many people just assume I'm a witch. Oh yeah, that's right, I did spells on this channel. Duh. So if you ask me, here's your answer. Sometimes I feel like doing things witchy, sometimes I don't. But at the same time, that is probably what I have been the longest. It's my true nature. It's just my true nature. Y'all like my outfit? Y'all like my look? Do y'all like my candelabra? I picked this up thrifting. And I said, I have to have it. It's so me. And these even move. So I can walk through my house and pretend I'm like in the old days and probably spill wax everywhere. And then blame it on someone else.
The only spell you should have on your man is a binding spell when you first get with him, to bind him to you. So a binding spell with someone you are with and happy with at the time is the best time to do it. Don't wait till it's too late. Don't think you don't need it, because in this age and day in society, I say you do need binding spells.
So a lot of people have been asking me, okay, so, do you believe in God? Well, if it's not a male, and if it's me, you know what I'm saying? If it's not a male and if it's me. So a lot of people have this answer. This is like a lot of people are thinking this way now, because a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, God is within. Well, if God is within and also without, then I guess that's who I am too, right? So as a goddess and a woman and a queen, then you're all three, okay? And you don't need permission from anyone. You don't need to fear anyone but yourself. And if you don't fear yourself, then you're good to go. You know what I'm saying?
We didn't come from no Adam and Eve. We came from fucking Lilith and Satan. Because at the end of the day, Eve was riding Satan's dick. And that's how she became Lilith. So you guys, you need to go home, okay? At the end of the day, there's no God, okay? I met somebody who died, and all of the day, when you die, it's just pitch blackness. It's just darkness. You are free to love who you want to love. Don't listen to the bullshit that this guy has to say. At the end of the day, they're all wrong.
She's absolutely right. You're free to love who you want to love, and you'll go to hell if you don't repent. So you're free to do anything. You're free to participate in sodomy. You're free. Okay, one second. You're free to be angry. You're free to do all these things. But the Bible said that you're also free to go to hell. You're leading yourself to hell by all these sinful actions. And this lady was all over the place. She went from Jewish fables to there is no God. But she admitted one thing. Satan is her daddy. She said that she was born of Lilith and Satan. And that's true. Because anyone that doesn't have God is of Satan. And it's true.
All right. Mama say, mama star, mama kusa. Mama say, mama star, mama kusa. All right. I bind you, dusty demon, that you will no longer afflict the minds of the young men today. I bind you, dust demon. Red pill men with mics. Dusty podcast. I bind you. I bind you, bald-headed, pot-bellied, cheap, ugly shirt-wearing passport bros. Mama say, mama sa, mama kusa. We call that dust out. Yes. Name of Neverland. Passport bros. Toxic masculinity with no money to back it up. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Fake alpha males with no money.
It's so crazy how quick I can get a new nigga. Walk in the store, boom, nigga. Post a picture, boom, nigga. Stop at the red light, boom, nigga. Like, y'all niggas be acting like y'all the prize. You wanna fuck up? You wanna act up? I'm gonna show you how much I cut up, okay?
My, the ancient Lilith and the modern day Lilith, man. What a treat do we have when it comes to the B-Dub, the Chaos Goblin, man. That spirit is alive and well and in the world today. Now, let's get into my commentary. I know the video started off slow because I wanted to give you a lot of background information on the story of Lilith. Now, here's my commentary. Thanks for checking out this audiobook. See you on the next one. Here we go. Now, let's get into my commentary. I hope that you have enjoyed this audiobook thus far. Now, right off the bat, I want to compare and contrast Eve to Lilith. Notice here that both Eve and Lilith rejected the authority, the headship of Adam. Lilith in a more direct way by outright refusing the missionary position. Eve in a subtle way, a more indirect way, using her subtle charms to convince Adam to eat from the fruit of the tree. Now, don't get me wrong, this displayed weakness in Adam, but we're on the subject of Eve and Lilith. So this displayed weakness in Adam, but also cunning, subtlety in Eve. Now, it's my theory that maybe Eve was truly the serpent. I know you never heard that before. It's Black Round 313. I'm an originator. It is of my theory, just a theory now, that maybe the serpent wasn't even there. That this was imagined by Eve. It said that the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. Well, how subtle is Eve? Using her feminine charm to convince Adam to break the command of God. The serpent was a conversation going on in Eve's head, kind of like a movie. She imagined the serpent, but this was a conversation that she had in her head saying that, hey, you shall not surely die. Why don't you go ahead and eat of the fruit of the tree? Well, then some may say, well, wait a minute. Well, God went on to curse the serpent, so it had to be literal. I'm not saying it wasn't or was literal. I'm just giving you my spin on the Genesis story here. Now, when the serpent was cursed to go on its belly on the dust of the earth, could be taken as a curse to Eve to go on her belly, figuratively speaking, and to live in the dust of the earth, which metaphorically could mean the world's oldest profession, the street prostitute. Not only by virtue of standing on a corner, waiting for passers-by, turning tricks from John to John to John, from D to D to D, but also a symbol of the muck and the mire that is sexual promiscuity. Dirty. As the serpent rolls around the dust of the earth on its belly, in the dirt, in the dust, passing by fecal material, so is the female that takes after Eve in her subtle rebellion, dealing with the undesirables. Instead of being a wife, nothing but a toilet, depository, something to dump in, a semen receptacle, the lowest of low, a human and public toilet. Now that's Black Ram 313's spin. I'm not saying that is what it is. I ain't saying to take what I just said, my theory, and run with it and say, oh, that's what I think the Bible means. No, man. That's just my theory, looking at the text, being a pussyologist, and making my own conclusions and my own thoughts. I'm not saying you need to take that, but it is something that I want you to think about. Now back to Lilith and Eve. Lilith wanted direct power over Adam, direct confrontation, like the stud, right? Or the lady who wants to be a man, right? But Eve was sharp and slick and wanted to be subtle with her deception, subtle with her manipulation, subtle with her power. And we can outright see that the B-dub takes more from Lilith, and the rest of the ladies on the planet takes more after Eve. I think in general, female nature is Eve, but I think the B-dub in particular, my theory now, I think the B-dub is Lilith. Throughout human history, I think men have been trying to convey to other men, to be warned about the evil hidden nature of the feminine. Its evil, selfish, manipulative, and rebellious nature. I think these ancient texts were warnings not to fall too deep into its feminine charms, which leads to a road of manipulation and being used by the creature. So let's get more into the main character of this audiobook, Lilith, and compare such to the B-dub. Lilith is all about dominance and dominating the male. Although the creature, although the B-dub doesn't have the same equipment as the male, doesn't have the same chemical and biological components as the male, yet within Lilith is the spirit of masculinity and dominance. One thing about the B-dub, more than any other creature on earth when it comes to females, is its masculinity. Undoubtedly, the B-dub is the most masculine of all of the feminine creatures on planet Earth. Number one. This is why I say the beast takes more after Lilith than Eve. See, Mei Ling is Eve. Marisol is Eve. Caitlin is Eve. But Keisha is Lilith. Lilith, one of the characteristics was having a bunch of babies, a bunch of demon babies by a bunch of other demons, and then setting out to unalive offspring in general. Now, who does that sound like? Again, Lilith, known as a strangler of children. That's what the legend says. Lilith, promiscuous. Very much so. Well, then who is to be done? Very promiscuous, multi-baby daddies. And one who brags and boasts about unaliving its children in the womb. Isn't this Lilith? Isn't this the spirit that is in the bee dove? Isn't this the beast, the creature, the Babylonia? Yeah, it is her. Without a doubt. Possessing masculine features, promiscuity, and unaliving its children. Lilith. She is. Its masculinity is unmistakable. Of all the females around the globe, if you examine the B-dubs, mannerisms, speech patterns, the ways of thinking, and then sometimes even dressing and acting, it is obviously a very masculine creature. And this is why there is such a rift between the melanated man and the melanated woman. Because there's a fight for power. There's a fight for dominance. In fact, Lilith, the B-dub, is so masculine that the only successful relationships that you will see in America between the melanated male and female is one in which Lilith, Keisha, the B-dub, dominates the male completely and utterly, dominating financially and trying to dominate mentally and even physically. A lot of my relatives, a lot of people that I know in the neighborhood who are in marriages, a lot of men that I know who are in marriages, old school and new school. If you take a look at their wives, like that. If you take a look at their wives and lives, you can see the dominance, especially if she's so-called educated. It's common to see a woman with a master's degree or a PhD with a guy that might be a factory worker. It is not the education, it's the spirit. You will see one dominating the other, and that is the B-dub, controlling every aspect of the relationship. The man has to check in about his whereabouts and get permission for various things, to hang out with the guys, to go places, to spend money. Being yelled at like a child, being ordered, commanded, and demanded. This indeed is the spirit of Lilith, alive and well today in the B-dub. Again, the only successful relationships, if you can call one successful, living together, melanated male and female, is only one which Keisha dominates Darnell completely and utterly. The issue is, and the rift is, when the melanated man realizes that he is the head, realizes that masculinity means that you are in the lead, realizes that you are the one who is designed by the Creator to be dominant. How do I know so? Look at his muscular physique and look at the creativity of mind, inventing everything you see in the world. However, such creativity and dominance is veiled, is suppressed, is broken when a man allows himself to be dominated by his woman. That kills his creativity. It kills his masculinity, crushes his spirit, and makes him a bitch. Whew. In the community, you see all defeated males. Brought to you by Lilith. Brought to you by Keisha. Brought to you by the B-Dub. This is the whole point behind single mothers. This is the whole point behind single mothers. She gets to raise the son alone, dominate the son, indoctrinate the son, encapsulate the son in feminine thinking, breaking his spirit, making him uncreative and unproductive. This is the birth of Pookie Ray Ray and Thuggo. The destruction of his masculine spirit by the demon beast. And this is why the community is broken and in shambles and can never, ever be repaired. Complete and utter destruction. A wasteland, a wilderness by Lilith. Isaiah talked about, Isaiah 34, a wasteland. It talked about a wilderness. Now, when you heard the article, they were trying to make examples and trying to understand why Lilith is mentioned only in the form or in an aspect of something being laid waste. I submit to you, Background 313, you're only going to hear this from me. It only refers to Lilith as being something or someone or a being that has made something a wasteland, because this is the spirit of Lilith. This is what happens when Lilith goes unchecked and is running free. It lays waste to human populations, also known as communities. So what Lilith did, what the B-Dub did, is laid waste to whole populations. And of course, we can thank the American government for such a thing by empowering the beast, the B-Dub, by empowering Lilith to do such things. Yes. So the community is a wasteland, decimated like a nuclear worse than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now you have living zombies called Thuggo with no mind, no masculinity, no creativity, utter destruction, as only a demon goddess can bring. Again, thank the abominable creature. So there's no wonder why the thinking man, the masculine man, cannot get along with the modern B-Dub. See, you as a person, you are not impressed by an education. You're impressed by practical value. You're impressed by the money you can make. You don't need the degree in human resources. You're fine with the trade, because at the end of the day, you can make money. And for those of us who want to be engineers, they are engineers. Those of us who are into computer information systems, IT, we are in that. For those of us who are scientists, we are that. However, the B-Dub has been sold a bill of goods that you need a PhD or a master's degree to accomplish anything. And it's that false narrative that gives it more fuel than it already has to believe that it can dominate you. See, the beast may be book smart and able to get an education, but it's far from wise. It believes it doesn't need you because it has the system and the government, yet it's far from being independent. It believes that it can be promiscuous, a thought, a run through, at the sacrifice of being a wife and a mother. This mindset, these characteristics, these traits, these ideas and concepts of the B-Dub makes it unlovable, undateable, and unmarriageable. Now, this is the way things are. not necessarily the way we want them to be. But for your sanity, for your peace, for your spirituality, for your heart, your mind, your body, and your soul. At all costs, you must avoid the B-dub, because mentally it will poison you with its feminist ideologies. It will try to crush your creativity by pushing on you its masculine spirit, wanting to lead and guide you, suppressing your innate ability to be creative and lead yourself. We allow in modern society, we allow in the community, we even allow in the space called the manosphere, we even allow there, and even sometimes here in the real pill, we allow its ideas and thoughts to dominate us as well, being a combination of Eve and Lilith. What are you saying, Ram? How is it so? Real easy. Again, understand the characteristics of Lilith. Understand the characteristics of the beast, involving direct power and indirect power, Lilith and Eve. This is the play. Here we go. For those who they can, the Babylonian beasts, also known as Keisha and the B-dub, can use direct power on the SIMP. Direct power. For those who might have a little bit of masculinity, for those who might have a little bit of creativity, a little bit of their own mind, subtle power is the way to achieve dominance over the male, particularly the melanated one. But that also extends to the male populace as a whole. So what it does, if it can't take direct power and dominance over you, it does so subtly by creating narratives. How is it that you allow the feminine to define the masculine? I don't like to sound like a broken record, but your favorite YouTubers are a party to this injustice against men. So let me give you an example. Weak men allow the beast to dictate the narrative of masculinity. Those examples of dictating the narrative include things such as this. A real man takes care of another man's children. A real man pays all the bills. A real man isn't insecure about how many sexual partners a woman has had. A real man is not afraid to let a woman lead. A real man, and you can just insert anything you want. Now, this is typically said by the Keishas, but men say it and enforce this too. It's real subtle. Let me see if you can catch it. I know it might be difficult, but let me see if you can catch it. Anytime a man determines the value of another man based on his ability to get and keep women, is a man who is submitting to the narrative of the female. Let me put it more clearly. In other words, if a guy says you have to have this personality trait, this type of money, you have to be Sigma, you have to be Alpha, you have to be A, B, C, F, and G to attract a female. You have to wear your clothes like this. You have to wear your clothes like that. You have to wear your hair like this. You have to do this and that. Anytime you have to achieve something other than that in who you are, in order to be in association with a woman, in order to be in between the legs of a woman, to have a relationship with a woman, if you have to have all of these pre-qualifiers, then you are indeed submitting to her narrative. Well, some may say, well, that's just the way the world is, Ram. No. This is a modern invention. This is a symptom of matriarchy. Let me tell you how it was in the ancient world. There were no qualifiers. You did not have to qualify to a woman to be with her. The world has changed. I understand that. And I'm not in any way saying that we should or can go back to the old world. But let me tell you how far we have fallen in the ancient world. Again, there were no qualifiers. There were no height requirements. There were no complexion requirements. There was no hairstyle requirements. There were no monetary requirements. None of these things were her choices. Example, a dowry, a bride price, an agreement between the groom and the father of the bride, a bargain. You approach the father, you make an offer, the offer is accepted or rejected. Where is her will in such? In the ancient world, it was non-existent. Yes, money was paid, but not to her, but to the father for one-time payment. Now, of course, you were obliged and obligated to provide and protect quite naturally. But the subject entered your home and became subservient and under your subjection, keeping your household. Didn't have a choice in what you look like, what kind of house you had, big your bippy was, none of those things. Get in my house, bear my children, clean my house, keep my house. This is your job and reason for being. Now it's up to you to decide if that was right or wrong. This is an audio book about his story and current times. Myths and legends and stories in current times. History and present times. But this was patriarchal dominance there. The decision was not hers to make. It was between the husband or the groom and the father of the bride. No hypergamy. No its. Just dominance and patriarchy. Now, the advantage of this was the rearing of great children who were in the home being provided for. Children who had their mother providing for them and educating them while the father worked. That's the trade-off. In the modern world, the subject gets to pick her mate. And not having the brain and the mind and the wisdom that is masculine, it often on purpose makes the worst choices available and possible. Hence the community. When the creature was given freedom to make his own choices, to exercise his own will, that's when the community, this is when the neighborhood went from sunshine to shit. All you have to do is compare and contrast. The traditional homes of the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and then see the decline and such in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and more so in the 90s, in the 2000s to the 2020s. What changed? Well, it was the liberation. It was the breakdown of tradition that lasted thousands of years. Now you see humanity expressing itself as being worse than ever before. The breakup of the nuclear family, as with Lilith, performing promiscuity instead of monogamy, preferring to be the leader instead of being led, choosing being alone instead of a companion. This is the spirit of Lilith and the spirit of Eve in the modern world. This is where we at. And I think the ancients were trying to tell us a lesson that if you're not careful of the nature of the beast, that you can fall victim and prey to its charms. And this is indeed what has happened to us. And we all have been manipulated not only by the beast, but we have been manipulated by other males who have taken upon this narrative. And this is how the beast subtly controls the globe, if you really think about it. Most men are carrying with them this narrative, the narrative of Lilith, in their heads by allowing in their own lives. We understand the larger society is controlled, but in their own lives, submitting to a female narrative. Now, in closing, me personally, I don't think that Lilith was an actual being or an actual person. Of course, I can't prove or disprove such a thing. However, in my opinion, I think, again, that the angels were trying to tell us something. I think they were trying to warn us about the behavior of the creature that we so adore. The beautiful, the innocent looking creature. So beautiful, but completely rotten and evil on the inside, as well as mischievous. This is the number one weakness of man, and that is woman. You see her, you want to love her, you want to give to her, you want to please her, you want to make her life easy. You adore her. And in return, all you want is loyalty, respect, and love. However, as we talked about time and time again, the creature cannot love you, and it's only able to manipulate and use you. The idea of love is what possesses you. The idea of love is its superpower, its spell, and its witchery. Taking your vulnerabilities and weaknesses toward it, you are willing to love and adore it, and using that to its advantage. It is brilliant. See, we have a brilliance of our own as men. Athleticism, strength, and power physically. Creativity, inventing everything in the world. But the creature, the beast, is very powerful as well, but in a different way. And some may argue that her females are more powerful than males. How can you say that, Ram? Now, of course, this only applies to the SIMP, but let me break it down for you just a little bit. See, you're the host and it is the parasite. Taking what you gather as energy and feeding off of it. You do the work and it reaps the rewards. What are you talking about, Ram? Well, due to its feminine charm, we can also call that female game. It comes to you as an innocent damsel. Have you heard this before? I have never done this with anyone but you. Have you heard this before? I've never loved someone like I love you. Have you ever heard this before? Oh, I never had sex like that before. Stroking your ego. Because your girl has told me that, and the next guy, and the other guy, the guy before you, and the guy after you. This is manipulation. This is a spell. It wants you to believe in love, the classic video by Black1313, although it doesn't. It wants you to believe that it is your duty and destiny to give it money without anything in return. Promiscuity, arrogance, solipsism, and many more characteristics that one could name. But its superpower, again, is convincing you that she loves you. Taking your vulnerability, your desire and willingness to love her, and using that to its advantage, and never to your greater good. I say the beast is powerful at manipulation and deception. which leads you to do its bidding, providing and protecting, all the while not getting anything in return in this modern era. Providing and protecting, although she's still cheating with Thuggo. Providing and protecting, although she secretly hates you. Providing and protecting, spending your money while it saves its money. Providing and protecting with your life. Meanwhile, you have someone who hates you, who's a liar and a cheater, and will leave you and take everything you have, including your children, and gets to walk away with your money. How is that not evil? Also, how is that not powerfully psychologically? To deceive you into believing that this one is different. To deceive you into believing that what you have with her is special. So opening up your heart and giving your trust, thereby giving your life to her, for her, and to sustain hers. The parasite in the host. Isn't that a powerful being who's able to take your resources, your power, your intellect, your creativity, and completely profit off of it because it has no creativity and no physical power of its own, has no direct power of its own, but is able to subtly subdue your power and make you powerless against it, all the while allowing you to procure resources for it. Brilliance, dominance, intelligence, powerful, witchery, spells. And it's only in the real pill. I didn't say no fucking red. Because in the red pill are the dating coaches that gives you a female narrative. In the red pill are those who tell you that you have to have certain personality traits to attract the whores of Babylon. That you have to do A, B, C, F, and G in order to attract the beast. Female narrative. It's a lose-lose unless you have real pill wisdom and you're able to navigate and able to control yourself and not fall into his charms. Although the beast is always there lurking. The beast is always there waiting to take advantage. And the only thing that you can do is try to beat the subject to the punch and take advantage also for yourself in whatever way you deem fit. To have whatever relationship you have with the beast, as long as it's fulfilling in some way to you and not just beneficial for the creature. Not easy to do. It takes skill, it takes practice, it takes heart, it takes a strong internal constitution, but it can be done. And the real pill, I believe, is the best way to do such. The spirit of Lilith and Eve is alive in the world today. Although these are myths and legends, I believe the angels were trying to warn us and tell us to be careful, to be leery, to be alert, to be aware of the subtle charms of the beast, because it is powerful. And its power lies in its deception of being physically weak and uncreative. However, again, its power lies within its manipulation and deception to get you to do its bidding. And the more unintelligent and unwise a man is, the easier it is for such a manipulation and deception. And the number one reason why, the B-Dub in particular, but all of them, they can't stand a thinking real pill man. Because we know the truth. We see behind the veil. We know behind all of that pleasure is poison. We know that behind the beauty is rot. This is the audiobook about Lilith. Thank you for listening and watching. Thank you for being a member of the Patreon page. more videos like this to follow. Let me know if you enjoyed. I have similar videos to format like this, more audiobooks for this year. If you enjoyed it, make sure you let me know. And make sure you remain patron so that you won't miss out on any of this content. You have been listening to Black Ram 313. Thank you again, and I'm out.